Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Aimee here. Today we're going to continue talking about some of the books that I have already read for these past couple months. So today's going to be September's wrap up. September was not a good month. I only got through 5 books in the month of September. It was supposed to be series September, but I feel like I just failed tragically in that month. The following months weren't that great either. I really need to like get on the ball of things, but my mind has just been going crazy just with the holiday season coming up. I really wanted to get my Christmas shopping done early and get all that done so I won't have to worry about that in the month of December, which I'm actually doing really good on, so yay there. So let's go ahead and get started. This will probably be a short and sweet little wrap up, but let's get into it. So the first book I picked up in the month of September is one of the Pride High books, and this is Orange. This is the second book by J. Bell. I love this little series. So this one is based in like 1992. So our teens are in their sophomore year and they are just blossoming. They are learning who they are and who they love, and I just love reading about it. Or listening. So we continue with all the guys that were in the first book, but we are introduced to one new character. I think her name is Kira in the second book, and Kira is interested in Sylvia. And Sylvia at the moment is dating Omar from the first book, but their relationship is a little rocky because Sylvia's trying to figure out her feelings. She's having these feelings for Kira that she's not sure exactly what it means. Like, she really likes Omar and she likes being with him, but she also has like these weird sort of same feelings for Kira. So Sylvia's trying to discover herself and who she is and who she loves. We also continue the journey with Andrew and Cameron. They sort of got together in the first book, so their relationship sort of blossoms a little bit more in this second book as they just explore themselves, what they like, what they want to do with their relationship. Do they want to come out yet? And then of course we have Ricky, also from the first book, and Diego. We meet Diego in the first book. Diego is presented to us as sort of a bully in the first book, but we learned some things about Diego in the second book, which I was really excited for because there was something about his character. Even though he was presented as a bully, there was something about his character that I was really drawn to, and I was like, I don't think he's a bully. I think he's just, there's something there, and I think he needs someone to help heal him. Like, maybe there's something broken, not necessarily like he's broken, but maybe he went through some things, and Ricky kind of feels the same way. Like, even though he felt like maybe Diego was sort of bullying him, he's drawn to him and he wants to help him. And so yeah, so their relationship blossoms a little bit as I think Diego just comes to terms with like, yeah, I like this guy. You know, he's not really like judgmental about himself or anyone else. It's just like what he feels and what he likes. I'm really enjoying his character. And then of course Mindy. Mindy is one of my favorite characters. Was also from the first book, and she's just going with the flow. Mindy is a straight character, so she knows what she wants, but for some reason she keeps getting attracted to all these gay guys. And I love how she just kind of takes basically like lemons and makes lemonades out of the situation, so to speak. Of course, she's friends with all our characters and she loves them, and yeah, she's just going with the flow. I really enjoy her character, so hopefully she can find her one true love very soon. I gave it, on my Goodreads it says 4 stars, but in my book I have 5 stars, and I do believe it was a 5-star for me because I really enjoy these characters. I love the story. And I did listen to this on audio, and the narration is fantastic. This narrator really brings out the characters and like the voices, and you can really distinguish who's who. And it's fantastic. Highly recommend this series. I can't wait to get to book 3. Okay, next I picked up The Dating Disaster. This is the second book in the FU series. And this is a series that's written by different male authors. And this one was written by Saxon James. I did listen to this via audio, and it is narrated by the fantastic Tim Page. But there was something about this one that just didn't do it for me. So I gave it 3 stars. This is Marshall and Felix's story. I think my main thing, I really did like Marshall's character. Felix's character, I could not, he really annoyed me, honestly. So them two together just weren't meshing for me because I felt like Marshall deserved better. Felix is, he's very like just openly gay and enjoys sex, so he's always looking for his next hookup. And then we have Marshall, who is a virgin. He is gay, but he's looking for something more in a relationship. He's not looking for a hookup. He really wants to connect with someone for his first time. It doesn't necessarily have to be like they're in this long relationship, but he just wants to connect with someone. So their first little meet cute or whatever doesn't go so well because they're both on totally different pages. Felix is there because he thinks he's hooking up with somebody that night, and Marshall is there because he thinks he's on a date with a guy to get to know them. There was also a lot of miscommunication between these two characters that that it annoys me sometimes. Sometimes I'm okay with it, but sometimes it stresses me out. I don't like a lot of miscommunication. It did get a little better for me towards the end as these two guys got to know each other a little bit more, and Felix became sort of like a better person. I don't know, but there was something about it that I wasn't connecting with in the beginning, and really throughout the story. It was just okay for me, but I'm still going to continue on with the FU series. Next, I picked up the second book in the Playing for Keeps series. This is False Start, and this is by Riley Hart and Nev Wilder. Really excited to get to this story. This is Houston and Cullen's story. Houston we meet in the first book because he is the brother to one of our characters in the first book, which I can't remember his name. But anyway, Houston played football until an injury took him away from the sport. But during that time, he did become good friends with someone Cullen, and they hooked up every now and then. They never really made their relationship a thing. It was just kind of like friends with benefits maybe. And Cullen hasn't really come out in the sport. So, but that wasn't really a part of the story. I was really glad that didn't like take over the story. It wasn't like I'm scared to come out kind of story. He wasn't scared to come out at all. He just hadn't really done it yet. But anyway, after years of being apart, Cullen shows up and he ends up on the same team as Houston's brother. So they sort of reconnect their friendship. Cullen ends up having to move in with Houston, so there's that little issue there. It turns out to be a fake boyfriend sort of story, just to help Cullen's reputation in the football world, I guess, because he's kind of known as a troublemaker a little bit. So being in a relationship with Houston, or a relationship with Houston, sort of makes him look a little bit better, and not so much as a troublemaker and a player, apparently out in the world. And fans seem to love Houston, and they seem to love the two together. So it does start as sort of a fake relationship between these two guys, even though they're really into each other. They just don't want to like admit it yet. But it was a good story. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it, even though it was a little bit of a slow start in the beginning. But it was really good, and it was narrated by the extremely talented Nick Russo. Really enjoyed his narration. Next is the second book in the, what is this series called? Lost Boys series. This is If There's a Way by Jesse Walker. Sorry, I couldn't remember the series. Okay, so this, like I said, this is the second book, and this is the continuation of Will and Way's story. You really must read the first book because the first book leaves a cliffhanger, and then you jump into the second book. And it's just their kind of continuing story of their relationship and the struggles that you read about in the first book. Their relationship definitely does grow more in the second book, but I found that it was drug out. This was a really long story. This took me like a really long time to read. I physically read this book, but I found it was just so drawn out with all the emotions and the back and forth of these two guys, and were they going to be together? Were they not going to be together? Emotionally, it drained me. So that's the only thing about this book that I don't know. There was something about it. Now, on the other hand, we have Wrath by Ella James that was over 700 pages, and I absolutely loved every single page in that book. I don't know what it was about this story that didn't make me feel the same way, because I do love Will and Way. Their struggles are definitely different from our guys in Wrath, and I think that's what made the difference for me. Kind of like it was the same thing over and over with Will and Way, where Josh and Ezra their struggles were over time, and as they grew into who they were, and yeah, it was more interesting of a story, I guess. Anyway, I don't want to put down these guys because they really went through a lot. I'm happy how the story ended. I just felt like it just took way too long to get to that point. And then their story continues in a 2.5 book afterwards called, I think I read it the next month. I did, yeah. Still Beating, The Lost Boys, 2.5. So their story continues in another book. But anyway, I love these guys. If you haven't read the series, definitely check it out. It's very emotional, be warned. And it's an emotional roller coaster. It's back and forth, back and forth. Very exhausting. Last and definitely not least, we have The Bell in the Fog by Lev A.C. Rawson. Sorry, I was about to say Lev Rawson. Lev A.C. Rawson. This is the second book in... what's the series called? Andy Mills. Andy Mills #2. So our detective that we're following is Andy. We meet Andy in Lavender House, which is the first book to The Bell in the Fog. I really did love Lavender House. Loved it, but I think I loved this one even more. We're introduced to Andy, and there's a whole different mystery to that story. I do think you could probably read these both as standalones, but if you really want to know more about Andy and his background, you definitely need to read Lavender House. I recommend it anyway. It's a great book. It's a great entry into the story of Andy and how he gets to where he's at in The Bell in the Fog. So like I said, Andy is a detective, and this book really brings out Andy's backstory, which I really like because I fell in love with Andy in the first book, just Andy's character himself. Andy was in the Navy, and he had two friends with him in the Navy, a guy named James, and there was a girl with them. Oh my gosh, I can't remember her name. That's horrible. And I loved her. She was a great character in the book, although I did get suspicious of her. Helen. Is it Helen? Yes, it's Helen. Okay, so we have Helen, James, and Andy, who were in the Navy together. Andy and James sort of had a little relationship in the Navy that they were hiding. Things got complicated, and the group sort of separated. And so now we have James coming back into Andy's life. Someone is blackmailing James, so he goes to Andy to help him find out who's blackmailing him, because he doesn't have the money to pay this guy off. So we sort of have to dig back into Andy's past and who James is to him, and who he is today. Of course, while he's investigating, he comes across Helen as well. Helen has some things to tell James. I don't want to say too much. There's a lot going on in this book, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of scenarios, there's a lot of characters that we meet. There's many suspects, let's just say that. And it's becoming a rough investigation for Andy. But it's a great story because we get to learn more about Andy, and he sort of gets closure in a way from his past. And I love in this book how he has become like the gay detective. All the gays come to him for help. It's fantastic. I love that. It was a lot of fun. Great twist at the end. Yeah, a must read, a must read. And like I said, I do think you can pick this up without reading Lavender House, but I would definitely pick up Lavender House because it's just as good. But I do think this was a little bit better on a different level, just because we get to know Andy a little bit better, and the mystery behind this story is just insane. It's insane, and I loved every minute of it. I can't wait for more Andy. Okay, that's it. That's the books I read in the month of September. My very sad reading month of September. October's not much better, but anyway, we'll get there. We'll get there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Hope y'all had a very happy Thanksgiving. Hope y'all are all doing well, enjoying the upcoming holiday season. Hugs from me all around, and I'll see y'all very soon in another video. Bye, y'all.